Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Manny Diaz Show. Joe Zagacki and Don Bailey Jr. and University of Miami head coach Manny Diaz. Miami and Georgia Tech coming up this weekend. Canes are coming off back-to-back top 20 wins. How about that? Congratulations, Coach Manny Diaz, and that was an impressive performance by your squad on Saturday. They showed a lot of backbone in that game.
They really did. Pitt's got a heck of a team this year. It was a great environment up there at Heinz Field. And we knew it was important that we started fast. We had really had a great week of preparation. The guys were excited when we left the hotel in the morning. Pre-game warm-ups in front of their student section was just getting our guys energized, ready to play. And boy, we came out on fire, you know what I mean, and made a great statement in the first quarter, going up 21-7. Had to ride some momentum waves the rest of the way because obviously we knew Pitt would make a run. They got a heck of a team, and Kenny Pickett is as good as advertised. But we were able to find a way to make it plays at the end during winning time, and that's been, it's been the difference between victory and defeat over the past couple of weeks.
And it's nice to open every week with Tyler Van Dyke. It just gets better and better and better, and as each chapter goes by, he seems to improve. What did you see the difference in this game from the previous 3 or 4 before that?
Yeah, I think we saw at NC State start to finish. Now it just felt like the confidence was there. NC State, it was like, can we do it? And again, here we go again, first third down of the game, a third down and long, and they rolled to a cover 3, which is really not kind of their primary coverage, and he's got Keyshawn Smith running up the seam and just throws a seed, just perfectly right over the outside shoulder, away from the safety, past the corner, great throw, and that gets us going, and bang, they're, like the last 2 weeks, if he doesn't make the third and long throw, you go 3 and out the first time you have the ball, but he does. We go down the field, score touchdowns, start the last 2 games. What a great way to get off on the right foot.
One of the things that he's been able to do in your offense in the last 3 weeks is stay on the field. These drives have been amazing in terms of how long they have been. I think you've had 10 or 11 now of 75 yards or more.
Yeah, part of that is, one, we're executing at a higher level, obviously. We've been getting better offensively week in, week out. We're not getting the field position advantage we've had in some other games. Our average starting field position was worse than Pitt's. So we're having to make some long drives. Pitt did a good job of punting us deep a few times. We've had some penalties on special teams that are really hurting us. So we're having to start and we have to drive the length of the field, but it gives us great confidence offensively to know that we can.
Manny, when you look at the offense and the production, the thing that's also improving so much is the offensive line. He's not able to make these kind of throws if he doesn't have the time, and he has it.
Yeah, our offensive line is really playing at a high level. Look, you saw 2 high-level quarterbacks on display on Saturday, right? Almost, 900 yards of passing offense. The difference was the line of scrimmage. We ran the ball. We had a stat. We had 41 called run plays, and through the handoffs and the RPOs, we gained almost 300 yards on those plays. Pitt had 66 yards rushing or 63 yards rushing on their running plays. They're not an RPO team, and certainly Pickett had a huge day throwing the football, but they didn't have a real other way to move it other than throwing it. And the fact that Tyler and our receivers can be so dominant in the passing game, but to still have that run game and the RPO game that protects your run game, starts with up front with guys making the blocks, Tyler with the great decision making, be able to throw off the unblocked defender, and that's what's helping us be efficient and drive the football.
We'll get back to your offense in a moment, but you mentioned Pickett and them throwing the ball for 500 yards. I kind of felt like, okay, he's going to get his yards. Kind of like a basketball player who's going to get his points. But in order to get all those points, he's going to take a bunch of shots. And Pickett did have a lot of yards. He also had a career high in pass attempts. He threw the ball 56 times in order to get 500 yards.
56, and you count 4 sacks, and then you count some scrambles where he ran. So, yeah, I think there were 65 or so called pass plays, which is a ton.
Yeah.
And normally you don't win the game that way, because sooner or later, no matter how talented you are, a ball sails on you, the wad doesn't turn around, you get the key interception. But he made it hard. And we obviously we didn't cover as good as we'd like to cover. He made it tough on us. His ability, as we mentioned, I think in the setting a week ago, to scramble the throw, scramble the run, and we had him dead to rights with an unblocked blitzer twice, and he was able to squirm out of there. He made it hard on us. Obviously, he deserves the accolades he got, but because we made him one-dimensional, we were able to find a way to win the game.
Manny, let's go back to helping everyone understand called runs. You look at this, and it doesn't show that Miami rushed the football for X number of yards, but there was almost 300 yards that were called runs that were produced. Explain that so people understand, because the game has changed. The RPO is a run.
Right, and Pitt is always historically really good against the run because they devote so many numbers to the box. But the downside of that is that leaves a lot of one-on-one coverage and at least some space out there in the perimeter. So Tyler's got to be able, like a point guard, you're kind of running pick and roll on every play, and he's got to be able to kind of manage a handoff and see, are the numbers what good to hand it off and get into a good box, or if there's too many guys we can't block, do I throw it out there? I think we had over 100 yards just on bubbles. Mike Harley and Xavier Restrepo did a great job at Rambo of just, hammering yards away on some outside wide receiver screens. Will Mallory, for all of his receiving yards, did probably his best job blocking out on the perimeter. And that is your run offense. That keeps you ahead of the chains, that keeps you efficient, and allows you to make those types of drives.
I wanted to hit you up on two subtle, well, they're big plays, but things that happened in the play to help them along. One was the double reverse flea flicker for the touchdown. Sometimes trick plays, if you're not a good trick play team, it turns into a train wreck. But it was so smooth. Restrepo, his toss to Van Dyke was just perfect. And then the other one I thought was pretty cool was Tyreek's interception. He snatched it out of the air, but Cam Kitchens, he gets himself in a position where he gets in front of the receiver to seal him off. He does a really nice job blocking. Doesn't hit him from behind, gets around that receiver so nobody behind Tyreek can get him.
Yeah, two big plays in the first half, as you mentioned. On the double reverse pass to Mallory, great execution, like you say, on the handoff. Restrepo was great. Restrepo actually, a late blitzer comes. Restrepo actually puts a shoulder on that guy to help keep Tyler clean on that play. Kind of the funny story is that Rambo gets kind of really jammed pretty hard by the corner. Rambo's supposed to kind of clear out, run a post. Well, Will runs a wheel. Rambo got jammed pretty decent that he actually ended up creating traffic along the way for the guy who was trying to cover Will on the wheel route. So not kind of the way it was designed, but it worked out in our favor, and then Will was wide open. And I'll tell you now, those aren't easy throws for the quarterback. Sometimes when the guy's that open, you want to, you can short arm it, you want to kind of hand it to him, and Tyler made a great throw, Will a great catch, and then now his speed shows up and he can finish that, not just into a big play, but for a touchdown. And then on Tyreek's interception, that was a big drive, big play, because offense had a punt from backed up. They get the ball around midfield, and on first down, they run a deep crossing route, which are hard to cover for corners and man coverage. And he stepped in front. You mentioned the great block on the intended receiver, and then we got some other really good blocks, and we really felt like we were one block away on the quarterback, where we might have been able to go all the way. Now, we got the touchdown anyway. Now, we mentioned in the defensive meeting on Sunday, we haven't had enough practice in returning interceptions. I mean, it feels like it's been so long that we got the coach how to block on return, but guys did a nice job of turning defense into offense.
Maybe it was Gervin. Maybe I was off.
It was Gervin, yes.
So, sorry, Gervin, but it was Gervin. But nonetheless, still a really nice play.
It was really big and at a big time in the game, and allowed us to take a 14-point lead into halftime.
Coach, there's some young men, freshmen, that are getting some playing time. Now we know, of course, about Kitchens and Williams, but Brashard Smith and then Cody Brown. And you go down that list of some guys that are just helping and quietly, but they're making a difference on the field. When you look at that, and Arroyo gets his first touchdown and made it look like he's been doing it for 20 years.
That's right, and it just hard to know where our team would be without him, and they're getting better week in, week out. And I think it's made you can see, as I've mentioned the last few weeks, it's made our team better as we know now where the contributions are going to come from. You see guys stepping up, like whether it is Rambo or Harley, Restrepo with a huge contribution on Saturday. But you always know you've got some, on the Brashard little sort of sweep play, we're kind of one block away. If we kind of get it blocked up the way we want to get it blocked up, we think we got a chance to spring him for a humongous play. So being able to continue to use all the weapons that we have on both sides of the ball and having those young guys continue to grow, because it's not easy for those guys. And defensively, starting three freshmen against maybe the nation's top quarterback, you're going to take some lumps. And Pitt does a nice job, and they really mix tempo. They're getting into odd formations out of 12 personnel and a lot of bunch sets and just between empty. I mean, they did it all. So there's a lot of thinking and processing on the back end, and those guys did a nice job, settling down as the day went on.
It's interesting to note that in the spring, Coach Lashley said, well, I'd like to have one running back as a feature back. Well, he has that kind of almost by default, but Jalen Knight in the last 3 weeks, he's touched the ball 67 times, averaging 140 yards a game. for nearly 500 yards, and I think it's 6 touchdowns. So he has accepted that role.
Yeah, I don't know if Rhett meant to have it under these circumstances, but Jalen he's done a great job with that role, and another long touchdown, explosive play, which is to me what the number one thing he brings. That touch count's probably about right. That's probably about 22 plays, 22 touches a game, which is fair for him and something he can handle. But I do think, like you mentioned, I think whether it's Cody Brown or the guys behind him, coming along to help out. Cody had some really good runs on Saturday as well. But it is good. It's good to know that you've got a number one guy that is a threat to go all the way at any time.
Coach, let's go to Restrepo and Harley. Those two, that's the position, the slot position. We thought that it would be big for Miami going into the game, but I think combined they were 12 for 142. And Restrepo, the catches that he made, none of them looked like they were easy to make. And I think that you go back to North Carolina State, there were 2 that he wished he had back. It made him even more determined this week to catch everything thrown his way.
Yeah, there's no one more determined than Xavier Restrepo. I mean, he's relentless, and even Mike Harley, you can't find a day where he's not sitting catching balls out of the jugs gun. So both those guys work really hard at their craft. As you mentioned, X made a couple of really, toe touch diving type catches, but a lot of their yards came really being running backs. Like I said, you spit the bubble out there to them, and now it's what can you do with the ball in your hands. And I thought they did a great job of sticking it, getting vertical, and breaking tackles. Pitt missed a lot more tackles than we did, and I thought that was telling in the game.
Okay, we have many more talking points to come. Georgia Tech is coming up on Saturday at 12:30. We'll talk about that and continue our review of Pittsburgh as we continue on the Manny Diaz Show right after this.
Thanks, Road Warrior.
So long, happy little blue car.
No matter what you call your car,
Goodbye, Speed Demon.
or why you're letting it go, AutoNation will buy it, and you don't have to buy one from us. We're paying top dollar right now. So go to AutoNation.com or come see us for a super easy appraisal. Get paid on the spot, and you can deposit it the same day. Visit any AutoNation store or AutoNation.com. What drives you drives us.
Hey, it's the Good Greek Spiro, and we all know that the most important part of winning a championship is getting there. And when the Miami Hurricanes need to get their equipment to each game, they call Good Greek Moving and Storage. The Miami Hurricanes trust the Good Greek, and so should you. So move like a champ and go to goodgreek.com. Good Greek Moving and Storage, the official movers of the Miami Hurricanes.
Good Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers.
Happy to welcome you back to the Manny Diaz Show. Joe Zagacki and Don Bailey Jr., University of Miami head coach Manny Diaz. We will all be assembled at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday at 12:30 for Miami and Georgia Tech. You had 2 great wins here, back-to-back top 20 wins. How do you keep that momentum going into this game against Georgia Tech?
Yeah, well, we now have the adversity of success, right? I mean, now people are patting us on the back, patting our players on the back. Guys are getting individual accolades, and what we told the team in our team meeting on Sunday was you have to treat criticism and praise the same way. If you hold on to both, either is unhealthy. We cannot lose our edge. We cannot lose a feeling that our backs are against the wall, because guess what? They're still against the wall. We are not in first place in the Coastal Division. Our margin for error is 0 to accomplish the goals that we set out to accomplish. We know we need some help, but we also know that we can control. And before we talk about any other game, we've got to beat Georgia Tech in our stadium on Saturday. We remember what happened the last time that they were here. That was a bad day. We were very disappointed to not be able to play them a year ago under difficult circumstances. So we now welcome them back, and it's really important that we've got another edge, that we start fast like we have the last couple weeks. Have a great crowd behind us, and are ready to play 60 minutes of football and what we'd imagine will be another difficult ACC clash.
And it seems this football team has circled the wagons around the locker room or this building or the team. And, you go into the game against Pitt, you have no Bubba Bolden, you have no Nessa Jade Silvera. 2 guys, well, Bolden was your leading tackler and the communicator back there, and Silvera is your leading tackler on your defensive line, and you still are able to produce. And these guys it's almost a plug-and-play mentality, which is very difficult with young guys in college football.
It really is. I mean, we don't talk a lot about what we don't have. I mean, we just sort of talk about what we have and what we need to do, and because no matter who we have or don't have, the expectation really doesn't change. And you're right. I mean, the team is close. The team does I think they recognize that there is a power and how close they are, and that helps us play well. And I think that really where that shows up is over the 4 games we've played in league over the last 10 minutes. I know defensively the last 8 drives, the last 2 drives of the 4 games, equaling 8 total drives, we've only given up 2 field goals in that time. And have a bunch of 3 and outs, interception, 4th down stop. So when it gets into game-winning play, when you really got to depend on your teammates and see it through, we've been really good in those situations, and that's something that we can take a lot of confidence in going forward.
Now, we didn't get to a couple of those big plays down the stretch. James Williams' interception, he was recognized by the ACC, and then again another huge 3rd down play connection. The game on the line, hanging in the balance, put the ball in the air. That sealed the game. Trickled out a little nervous tension there for a while, but nonetheless, it was a big play.
It was a huge play. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, first, we just barely get the ball to the end zone. Which goes to review, and it was the right call. But the one thing that served us well over the last couple of weeks is we're going to be aggressive in those game-winning times. And it was 2nd down and long, and we're going to throw the ball out of there. We're going to trust Tyler. And Charleston Rambo just made a big-time play. Tyler made a big-time throw. Gets you out from the shadow of your own goalpost. Jalen makes a great run on 1st down, so we got like 2nd and 3, and then you mentioned it comes down to 3rd down. And very similar to the NC State game the week before, hey, we can run it and punt and give the ball back to Kenny Pickett. And, they're out of timeouts, and they need a touchdown to win, but they still have the football. And when you have the football, anything can happen. So we want to be aggressive. We want to trust our players. We want to trust Tyler. And, Rhett makes a great call, getting the ball out there to Will. Now, the part with the ball rolling around, that was in slow motion. That seemed like it took forever. And but how about Tyler Van Dyke being Johnny on the spot and running over there and helping it out of bounds? And it did end up being out in front of the line to gain. And these are the plays, right? That's the 4 inches that it was, maybe the 4 inches that the field goal hits the goalpost against Virginia. These are the things that, over the course of the year sometimes tend to balance out. But I do feel the aggression that we showed and the way that our players responded when we hand them that trust in those late game situations sees us through.
Coach, you know the exact answer to this question, but Zach McLeod in that ball game looks like Zach McLeod, the defensive end. He was transitioning from last year. We had him in the bowl game for that start as well, and he's been battling and working and grinding. He's getting great coaching by Coach Jess Simpson, and he's doing a fine job. But he looked at home.
Yeah,
in that game.
That was Zach's best game at defensive end, without a doubt. And again, think about it: 66 drop back pass opportunities. That's a hard game because
it's a long day.
Yeah, that's a real day at the office. I thought he was excellent. I thought DeAndre Johnson was excellent. Again, sometimes they got their shoulder pads sticking out of their jersey, because who knows how that's happening. But they were relentless. I mean, really, one of the sort of forgotten plays before the James Williams interception is the sack. Mm-hmm. And to go that hard, we brought pressure, but to go that just when you watch how relentless everybody rushing the quarterback is on that snap, when it is the 65th drop back pass that they called. One, it's a credit to our strength and conditioning program with David Feely, but also just the ability for us to substitute and play too deep on our defensive line, and then just how hard those guys can go and push themselves.
You held Pitt to 68 yards rushing, holding opponents to 3.8 yards per rush. So those numbers are going in the right direction, but you have a team coming in that does want to run the football with a really good running back. Gibbs is a really good, speedy, elusive running back with really good vision.
They have 2 good running backs, and obviously Mason had a great game when he was here 2 years ago. And then the quarterback, Sims, is probably the most talented runner on their team, and that's taking nothing away from the other. I mean, they've got some guys, they've got some skill. They've upgraded a wide receiver from what they had. Again, they're coming out of a triple option offense, so it's been a yearly process to improve the talent on their football team. But yes, I would tell you that over the course of the 4 ACC games, and when we do all the sort of quality control, I think we're 2 out of 3 runs are for 3 yards or less, which is really, really good. We're 1 out of 4 runs is a tackle for loss. 1 out of 1 every 4 or 5 plays is a tackle for loss. So we do like the way we're playing up front. We do like the way the backers are fitting versus the run. We obviously have to continue to try to improve our pass defense, which was obviously we saw that on Saturday. But I keep saying if your defensive performance starts with the way you stop the run, and that was a big point of emphasis coming into 2021, and we are seeing the improvements.
Georgia Tech on their defense, another odd front team. Miami's had a little bit of experience with that, but they have they implemented that when Coach Collins got there, and it just gets better and better as well.
Yeah, they have really gone overdrive on it this year to more of the not just odd, but the 3 safety look, and it is another new week for Tyler Van Dyke. I mean, Tyler can't get the same defense 2 weeks in a row. They are structurally as different from Pittsburgh as you can be. So. Different visuals, different clues and keys on when they hand the ball off, the RPO game, where to go with the ball when you drop back and throw it. They do it to try to confuse quarterbacks and try to force mistakes, and it gets a lot of speed on the field for them. They get a bunch of athletes out there because they got a bunch of defensive backs, and they have a lot of defensive backs that have a lot of career starts and have got some experience. You got to find a way to hit some explosive plays on them. They've had a little bit of an issue with that. We're always at our best when we can hit, pop some explosives and then be able to sustain the drives that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks.
By the way, away from University of Miami, just inside the league in general, good luck playing defense. Georgia Tech gave up 639 yards to Virginia a couple weeks ago. Virginia and BYU at halftime the other night, I think it was 45-42. Ended up 69-48. And we mentioned Pickett, Tyler Van Dyke's throwing the ball all over the place. Offense in this league has become a juggernaut.
I don't know why it's not talked about more nationally. This league has the best quarterbacks in the country, and number 2 is way far behind. I mean, in our division, I mean Armstrong at Virginia, he only leads the nation, right? Pitt was 5th in the country in scoring, and Pickett may be the first guy drafted. Sam Howell, despite losing who he's losing, if you watch what he did at Notre Dame on Saturday night, I mean, the guy's a magician with not much help. I mean, he's playing his tail off over there. Hartman's killing it for Wake Forest, I mean, there's guys. You got Cunningham, who's an experienced guy at Louisville. BC lost their guys. You got Syracuse playing a high level. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks in our guy, right. In our offense, and quarterbacks. It's a little bit. You see how the leagues kind of ebb and flow a little bit. Remember, we're only 1 year removed from an SEC championship game where the final was 52-45 or whatever. When you had 2 really, really high level quarterbacks playing, and you look at what we've been through this year. When you add in who we've played in the league, and then throw in Thorne at Michigan State and Young at Alabama. We've played some proper quarterbacks as well, so it's been a test for us. Obviously we've not had the right answers at all times, but we're improving, and I think that's the point. Our personnel is improving, and we're getting better as the season goes on. I think that's the whole key.
Another thing that needs explanation too, Coach, is you as on the defensive side of the football, you start looking at numbers and you start looking at yards, but I highly recommend you go look at play count. Because 10 years ago and 5 years ago, it's 60, 65. Now it's 75, 85, 90, 100. You're seeing plays. You're almost playing an additional quarter sometimes in a football game as a defense.
That's right. Yeah, what was unique about Saturday, because when we were off to a great start in the first half, obviously Pitt scored the first time they had it. We messed up 2 third downs, but then we stopped them the next 2 times. And then we score, I think, on a 3-play drive, on a 2-play drive. So we were scoring fast, which is fantastic. We're not against that. We love scoring every way we can score, but yeah, I think we'd played 26 plays of defense in the first quarter, and maybe 50 something like that by the first half. So that's a lot. That's a lot of volume. It went down a little bit in the second half, but yeah, when you finish the game playing 85 snaps of defense, again, I always say it's like baseball. If they play 12 innings, there'll be a lot more points or a lot more runs scored. So it's just kind of common sense.
Your offense had 5 plays of 20 yards or more in the first 10 plays of the game.
Right.
Your offense also now is up to number 17 in the country in terms of passing offense, 300 yards a game. In total offense, you're up to number 36. So made a lot of strides here with a freshman quarterback, backup center, backup left guard, and down to one running back, and you're in the top 40 in 2 pretty big offensive categories.
And Joe, this is not by accident. I mean, look, when we made a decision on what we were going to do as a program, and remember, nothing happens in a vacuum. When we decided to bring in Rhett Lashley and get to an up-tempo spread offense with air raid principles and really push the accelerator on tempo, that's a program decision. Obviously that's going to have an effect on your defense. And again, we can play much, much better defense, but we want to evolve into what's going on in college sports right now. And you're not winning if you're not scoring. That's just the bottom line. So it gives our team great confidence, because we've all been in those games where if we gave up 20, it felt like, ooh boy, I'm not sure if that's, we can find 20 points. And now we know we're in every game because we can throw the football. We can throw the football when we want it. We mentioned the RPO game and our ability to run the football. And And to be able to compete on offense now, to me, gives us a chance to win every football game. We keep getting better in the secondary and kind of growing up there and dialing some things in. The improvements will come on defense. But if you can't score in college football right now, you ain't got a chance.
And what do you believe the identity of this team is? We knew what it was when we started the season with the Eric King, and then the mishap with him. Unfortunately, he's out for the season. But it was you almost had to recreate this football team with his injury and all the other ones even Joe mentioned. You know, I think you're on your fourth captain. Like you said, nobody even wants to be captain. Right. They're worried about that. But what is the new identity that you think is here on this football team right now?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's resiliency. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I think that's what we show every week. These guys just play. They play extraordinarily hard. They play for each other. You know, they've been through a lot. You know, I mean, emotionally, what they went through the first 6 weeks with the guys, you know, that are out. I mean, those guys don't just vanish. I mean, they see these guys walking around in crutches in this building every day. That's a reminder.
I mean, they're in the meetings.
Yeah, they're in the meetings. These are their friends. These are the guys that they sweat out on Green Tree Field all summer with, you know. And but what I love about them is that they just persevere through whatever. And even when the results weren't coming, beginning of the year, and we had to kind of had our sort of hell week during bye week to make sure that we were all still up for the fight, and nobody flinched at that time. And I think going through some of the things that we went through has made us stronger. We had to play better. We had to coach better. We had to play better because we were tough. We were resilient, but we were still making too many mistakes to win a football game. And we're making less of those mistakes now. You know, certainly we're tackling better on defense. That's tangible. You mentioned we're blocking better on offense. That's real. You know. But those are things in the course of the season from a technique standpoint that do improve as players improve. But I think when you look at what we are, I think that's defined by our mental toughness and our resiliency.
Well, we'll wrap up this segment with this. I think some of the things we discussed, the unity that we've seen, the enthusiasm, the passion, the big plays on both sides of the ball has been fun to watch. And I think for a lot of other kids also keeping an eye on it, they're noticing it's a fun place to play. So
that's exactly right.
All right, we will continue on the show right after this.
Sure are a lot of different drivers out there, and AutoNation is here for every one of them. The 10 and 2ers, the big fellas, nothing but the besters, even rock stars. But we do way more than sell new and pre-owned vehicles. We believe in something bigger, too. For every vehicle we sell or service, we donate to Drive Out Cancer. Over $28 million so far. What drives you, drives us. AutoNation.
With UHealth Virtual Clinics, you can see our experts in every specialty wherever you are.
University of Miami health system providers are available here for all your healthcare needs.
All you need is a phone or tablet to schedule a virtual visit with us.
See a UHealth provider virtually today or at a time that's convenient for you.
Visit umiamihealth.org/virtual clinics or call 305-243-4000.
University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Experts treat athletes of all levels, elite pros, active adults, and youth athletes. Recover your game. Visit uhealthsportsmedicine.com.
It's now time for the breakdown segment with head coach Manny Diaz, and I'm sure you got something special for us today, Coach.
Oh, Don, you're gonna love it. We're going under the hood to the big nasties. You know, again, in a game featuring two top quarterbacks, all these throwing yards. Most football games are won by who wins the line of scrimmage. And when we watch a film, holding Pitt to 68 yards rushing, you know, as I mentioned earlier in the show, almost 300 yards either in run game, in RPOs. That's controlling the line of scrimmage, and ultimately that tells. And I want to show you a couple plays on both sides of the ball of some guys that maybe you don't notice. It's easier to notice them, you know, as you always know, the smaller guys are making plays in space. But, you know, this is Pitt is in a heavy formation. They've got three offensive linemen here on one side of the ball, but the guy I want to really highlight right here is John Ford. John was really, really physical. This is a big-time compete play. They're going to run power, and watch him just on the down block. Knock his guy, shed his guy off, be able to finish right there. LT's got a hard down. They're putting two on him. DeAndre Johnson's in there knocking. Look how he knocks the fullback back. Frierson's in there fitting. Flag is scraping over the top. I mean, but John Ford, what he does on this play, just whipping the single block, getting off, being able to finish. That's some grown man stuff.
And you know, Coach, I don't know that he did it quite that well a year ago or 2 years ago or 3. He has really matured into this position technique-wise.
He really has. He's really improved. It's really making a difference, and it's helping our football team be what we want to be inside run game-wise. You're going to see him again here. Now he's in the hot seat where LT was the last play. He's going to get the double team. So there it is right there. I mean, two guys that's about 600-pound a man just trying to smash in on you. And here they're going to try to kick out Jafari Harvey, same type deal. And watch how Jafari just takes his guy and throws him on the ground. But look who shows up from the inside out. Watch John Ford be able to come through that block, relentless, and be able to make the play. Jafari's got him wrapped up down low. John's got him wrapped up high. I mean, that's some grown man stuff right there. That ain't easy. And there are two guys being really physical, really relentless.
I like the fact that he was able to handle the tight end, because the tight end is not a small guy. They put him in there for a reason.
No, there's no doubt. They got big physical guys, and that's what they want to try to do. And then, if they can't run it in here, then what they try to do is they take it on the perimeter. And this was a really special play by Cam Kitchens. And again, it's easy to talk about the stopping the Philly special and everyone sees, but boy, you want to talk about tackling in space. You know what I mean? Does a great job. Wraps up the legs right above the knee, and then runs his feet on contact. And we always say, pull the hamstring. See that hand right there? If you will pull up on the hamstring, that takes the runner out of the ground, and that is a poor position to be in for an offensive player.
So, Coach, I would say it's safe to say that Cam Kitchens' tackle will make the teaching film for next year or next week.
That is it right there. Shoulder through the thigh board, drive for 5, and then pull a hamstring. And then you get great effort. Here comes Corey Flagg. Look at even James Williams is coming. You know what I mean? Like that's what you want to see. You want offensive players to want the urgency to get down. You don't want them fighting for extra yards. You can do that by storming to the football. Corey Flagg is trying to do what right here? Rip it out. Which is an exceptional play to try to force a turnover, try to do something when you got the tackle wrapped up. So that's really special right there by those guys. And again, when your little guys tackle, which we've done a better job the last 2 weeks, the whole defense plays better. Now, Don, save the best for last for you. Offensive line, okay? And again, Pitt is by design one of the harder teams in the nation to run the ball against. They put so many numbers close to the box. This is a PN10, which is the first play of a drive. You can tell we're kind of backed up. The ball's on our 11-yard line. We use a little bit of emotion trying to get some people running around. And just Jalen Knighton's done a really nice job of being patient, waiting for the offensive line to open up some holes. Watch Scaife and Jared Williams right here on the combo block. Scaife puts 10 on the ground. Jared's able to climb up to number 7, the backer. We do a nice job. Watch Ja'Kai Clark displace the nose guard right here with Navon. You know what I mean? So we've got some seams right here that Jalen can go through. The safety tries to fit through 1, but he can't fit through 2. And just, these type of runs versus Pitt, when it's the first play of a drive and you can get that first down, as we mentioned earlier in the show, that's how you sustain drives. That's how you get going.
I want to give the offense line credit with those combo blocks. They've gotten better and better each week as the season's gone on, but then you look at Jalen, and that gives you an example of his vision and how he looks at it. There was an opportunity to go there, but he bends it back for the better run.
That's right, and it's making those decisions, and I think his patience has really improved. You have to remember how inexperienced Jalen actually is based off how many at-bats he got a year ago, and now he's really coming into his own. I think he's really getting into a great rhythm. Here's a really important run. This is on the last drive of the game. So Van Dyke throws a strike to Rambo. This is the 1st and 10 afterwards. So this is still a big sequence right here. Pitt has 2 timeouts left. Again, if we don't get yards, that 3rd down call that we threw to Mallory, that's a lot harder call in 3rd and 10. And this might be as important of a run as we had during the course of the game. So same thing, we're just running inside zone and watch. 38 comes in here and blitzes late. Zion does a nice job picking him up. They try to make a little bit of movement right here, and everybody just stays on their guy. Navon's on his guy. Ja'Kai covers his guy up, and then Jalen again. The patience to the mesh point, then he sees it and he can accelerate through that hole because they've got a free blocker. Pitt's going to always have. They're going to have 2 free hitters, but he's able to accelerate and get 7. And that 7 may not seem a lot, but that's why we're able to call that 3rd and 3 play.
And Coach, you on the offensive line play and everything in football, you talk about finish. And there's an example of all 5 offensive linemen finishing their block through the whistle, through the play, and it led to extra yards.
That's exactly right. Even Will Mallory doing a great job on the line, with this knocking the defensive end out. Those are big. That's big yards. And then the explosive play, and again on a counter play, you'll see it right here. Start off with a great double team. We're kicking out the defensive end right here. There goes Navon. And then we wrap around with Zion right there for number 0. We got a hat on everybody. They got one linebacker left that we're double teaming towards, but that's what makes Jalen special. 20 just overruns it a little bit right there. Jalen, by running, and what we always say is that when someone's running sideways and someone's running forward, that's a law of physics, right? You want to be the guy that's square, running forward, because people that are running square can cut back on people that are turned. And then this is all it takes. And again, Pitt, because the nature of their defense, they usually do not have a second level defender. So if you can get through that first wave, and you got the speed like Jalen Knighton is, it's gone. And I know you know this, Don. Look at the reaction of the offensive line. There you see Jakai. You know what I mean? There's Zion. You know what I mean? That's it. I mean, that's
clapping, baby.
That's it. Hey, that's what you want to see. And they've seen it now 4 weeks in a row with the Rooster running towards someone's goal line. And they did it with Cam Harris in the Virginia game on that long run.
Right.
And I know those guys have a lot of pride. But when you see that long run, that might be the sweetest thing for an offensive lineman. Even watch Navon get up off the ground. He knows right now when you hit the Rooster in the open field, it's next play is going to be an extra point.
No, it's great to see. They're hustling down there. It may take them a minute to get down there, Joe, but they're going to get down there and celebrate, believe me.
That's exactly right.
That does it for the breakdown segment with head coach Manny Diaz. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Road Warrior.
So long, happy little blue car.
No matter what you call your car,
Goodbye, Speed Demon.
or why you're letting it go, AutoNation will buy it, and you don't have to buy one from us. We're paying top dollar right now. So go to AutoNation.com or come see us for a super easy appraisal. Get paid on the spot, and you can deposit it the same day. Visit any AutoNation store or AutoNation.com. What drives you drives us.
Hey, it's the Good Greek Spiro, and we all know that the most important part of winning a championship is getting there. And when the Miami Hurricanes need to get their equipment to each game, they call Good Greek Moving and Storage. The Miami Hurricanes trust the Good Greek, and so should you. So move like a champ and go to goodgreek.com. Good Greek Moving and Storage, the official movers of the Miami Hurricanes.
Good Greek moving and storage. Your superhero movers.
Time now for the joint chiropractic adjustment of the game. Big play here. First quarter, Hurricanes on Halloween Eve with a little trick or treat. Double reverse, flea flicker. Down the sidelines to Will Mowry. Into the end zone, 6 points for the University of Miami. A thing of beauty. How about this, the way Restrepo just flips the ball right back to Van Dyke to a wide open Will Mowry with long strides into the end zone for a Hurricanes touchdown. The joint chiropractic adjustment of the game. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Joe Zagacki, Don Bailey Jr., joined now by our sideline broadcaster and Hurricanes podcaster, Josh Darrow. All right, fellas, the Canes have Georgia Tech coming up on Saturday at 12:30, but let's bask in the glow here of winning 2 games in a row against top 20 opponents. Miami looks like a different team. Tyler Van Dyke, the last 2 games, has thrown 7 touchdown passes, but this feels good for the University of Miami.
It does, Joe, and I think what you've seen here is you've seen a team redevelop. They started the season, and we talked to Coach about this earlier with De'Aaron King. There was that personality, there was that dependency on him at quarterback. He gets lost for the season, and now you have Tyler Van Dyke, who's getting a grip on the offense. You have a change at the running back spot too, with the Rooster being inserted into that deal, and now you've got an offense that is gaining its personality, and a lot of it has to do on the right arm of Tyler Van Dyke.
Absolutely, and I think someone used the word reboot a few weeks ago with this team. And really, if you think about it, almost half the offense is different.
Right.
Offensive line, running back, quarterback. You've had the emergence of some young receivers as well. And so it's starting to hit its stride. You clearly see a more comfortable Tyler Van Dyke. They're winning behind his right arm. And we talked about before the Pitt game, it was a battle of big plays. And they hit big plays. The Rooster hit a big play, and they made big plays on defense too.
You know, the late game aggressiveness is going to prove or pay big dividends, because now the opponents are not going to be quite sure how to defend Miami. Again, if the game's hanging in the balance. Miami's been throwing the ball on 3rd down, finding big plays in late game situations. Also on the offense, Josh mentioned Knighton. He has made a world of difference. The big plays he is giving the University of Miami, both receiving and running.
Well, Joe, he's so explosive. That's the big thing. He doesn't need that much space, and he doesn't need that much distance to get to top end. And I think that's what you saw. You've seen in every game that he's played, and he's only getting better. I think people forget that he was not available to play at all in the first 4 games. So now he's getting the feel. We've had some changes on the offensive line during that time at practice when he was out there, and now you're getting the flow of the offense, and I only think he gets better. And then the nice fill-in, of course, is Cody Brown, who's a totally different style. And he tough to bring down. I mean, you're down there, Josh, on the sideline. That guy, you can't get him in the dirt.
He's a brick house. I mean, he's thick, wide-shouldered, young freshman. I think we give credit to Rooster. Certainly the big plays have been awesome to watch and makes things so much easier when you can break one off. I think he's been 40-plus, at least 40-plus in every game he's been in since he's been back. But I think give the kid credit. He's been tough running inside the tackles. And his blitz pickup in this game, I thought he stuck his neck in there and knocked his shoulder against a couple of incoming linebackers from Pitt. But he's really growing into this role, and he has definitely changed the personality of the offense.
He brings the physicality to the offense. It might not look like it in his size, but he brings a physicality. That
he does, and he runs the play you're watching now is he ran that wrap play. That's what where they pull the backside guards and they get everybody moving in one direction on the offensive line, then wrap the guys around, and he just explodes when he hits the line of scrimmage. And I think his acceleration is what's impressive to me. And the other part is how strong he is. You know, you and I, we all see him after practice or before practice. He's not a roped up guy. He's thin and he's wiry, but he packs a punch.
Yeah, he gives them the equal dynamic of, you can call it inside zone, outside zone, stretch, and let him, find creases. But if they have to work it inside the tackles, he's putting his shoulder down, he's leaning forward. I mean, look, the safety or not the safety, I mean, he had to take contact and make sure he got outside the goal line. There is the last play we saw, jumping over the goal line, holding over the football. That was a third down play. That was big. So I think give the kid a lot of credit. He's emerging into a multi-purpose, multi-dimensional sort of all-purpose back.
All right, let's talk about the Hurricanes defense. Last week, the turnover chain returned. 2 big takeaways, 2 terrific interceptions. Tyreek Stevenson, James Williams. In college football, it's like college basketball or like basketball. You have to find a way to get multiple stops. You're going to give up a lot of points. You're going to give up a lot of yards. Sometimes, as we saw in the case of Kenny Pickett or like in a basketball player, how many shots does that guy have to take to get how many points? Pickett, 500 yards passing. It took him almost 60 passes to do it.
It did, and I think what's going unnoticed here, probably nationally, is Miami won at Pittsburgh against, last week at this time, the Heisman winner, right? Everybody was convinced he was going to win. Starting 2 freshmen at safety. Starting 2 freshmen, and that both of those guys made significant plays in the ballgame that turned it around. And I think that the youth here is buying in. It proves that there's talent, but they're also very smart. To be able to come in and adapt that quickly and be able to participate at the level that they are speaks volumes for the coaching and also speaks volumes for their talent.
Well, I'll say this. In this sport, at the end of the day, you just got to find a way to win. It doesn't always have to be pretty, doesn't always have to be exact. Certainly we've documented it on this show or on the radio, the amount of turnover there's been in personnel with this roster. But at the end of the day, the defense made the deciding play, right? Tyreek Stevenson's, in my opinion, his interception in the first half was the deciding play. You got 7 points off of that. You could say James Williams as well because they would have been driving down the field. But at the end of the day, the difference in the game was Miami broke the chain out twice, and Pittsburgh only had 1 turnover, and Miami got 7 points off of their turnovers. Pittsburgh didn't get any. That, to me, you won the game by making big-time plays on defense.
And the craziness is, Joe, Tyreek Stevenson, that's his first interception in his college life, in his whole career, and it couldn't have come at a better time.
He made a big play when he was at Georgia against Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl, but that was a terrific interception and was a big difference in the game. Just a really good athletic play, leaped up there with 2 hands.
Stayed in bounds, picked up some positive yards, handled the blocking, and then James Williams, his comments were, I've been waiting, and he read the quarterback's eyes, and he reacted perfectly, and he made the catch, came up with it, and that is another play that certainly had an impact on the football game.
And I can tell you this, no questions asked, keep the chain. Because when those guys put it around their neck, they were smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah.
Their teammates were celebrating with them. It was like it had never been done before. And for those two guys, it hadn't. So it was their first time, right? And we know what you say about that. So
you
they
never
enjoyed
forget
it. They don't forget it. And they were booming and beaming from ear to ear, and their teammates loved it too. It was great.
Okay, Georgia Tech is up next. The Yellow Jackets have taken 2 in a row from the University of Miami in this series, so the Canes owe them. It's 12:30 at Hard Rock Stadium. We'll talk about Georgia Tech when we come back on the Manny Diaz Show right after this. Okay.
If you train like a pro, then you should be treated like a pro. Much like the human body, our team of sports medicine experts moves as one to achieve a singular goal. Recover your game.
Sure are a lot of different drivers out there, and AutoNation is here for every one of them. The 10 and 2ers, the big fellas, nothing but the besters, even rock stars. But we do way more than sell new and pre-owned vehicles. We believe in something bigger, too. For every vehicle we sell or service, we donate to Drive Out Cancer. Over $28 million so far. What drives you, drives us. AutoNation.
Welcome back to the Manny Diaz Show. Joe Zagacki, Don Bailey Jr., and Josh Darrow, Miami and Georgia Tech. Saturday at 12:30 at Hard Rock Stadium. Jeff Collins brings his team in. He had a big rebuilding deal at Georgia Tech, going from that Paul Johnson option offense to what they're doing now. Pretty good combination in the backfield. But Jeff Collins, he's battling hard. He's lost a couple of tough games, 2 in a row coming into this one.
One thing for sure, they'll battle you. We've learned that about Georgia Tech forever, whether it was with Paul Johnson or how it is now. But what I'm impressed with them is how quickly they've really kind of changed their offense, and it has to do with their quarterback Sims. They were fortunate to pick him up 2 years ago. They get their redo. He's still a freshman again, but he's far more experienced. But those guys were the 3 yards in a cloud of dust, the option. I mean, you couldn't have been any more caveman football, and now they're completely the opposite. So they've done a good job adapting, and then that defense has changed a little bit as well, Josh.
Yeah, Sims this year has really kind of given him a nice uplift. You know, he can run and pass. I mean, against North Carolina, he goes for over 100 yards. I think he's got another game over 100 yards. They got a couple good running backs. They've got some talent at wide receiver. All you know is they beat North Carolina and they hung tough with Clemson. I know it's been a little bit shaky for them since then, but just put that film on and you know what they're capable of. So, and they're a team, as you said, Joe, they've beaten us twice in a row. So they want to come down, they want to snap a losing streak, they have a lot of pride at stake, but they've got good players. They've got one kid in the backfield that's electric.
Yeah. They hoodwinked Miami 2 years ago with the fake punt. They come into this game, though. Miami's offense is rolling. Georgia Tech is 103rd in defense, giving up 427 yards a game, and they're really struggling on third downs this year. But I think the strength of their defense there would be their edge rushers. And the Tariq Carpenter, he did a good job against Miami a couple of years ago, especially against Brevin Jordan. So you know they'll have something with Carpenter on the Miami tight ends.
They will. Their linebacker is probably one of the best player on their defense. But the thing we have to remember, now we've had a little bit of a struggle here this season, is when an opponent plays Miami, it's their biggest game of the year. You're going to get the best version of Georgia Tech that you've seen all season, except for maybe against Clemson. I mean, they showed up pretty darn good against them, but I think you're going to get, Jeff Collins knows that if he's going to continue to work at recruiting in Dade County, that he needs to beat the University of Miami. It'll help him in Dade and help him in Broward, and he's taking that program national recruiting-wise. So he's looking for a victory, and what he's selling his team is, guys, we've done it the last 2 times.
Yeah, absolutely. I like their linebackers. I feel like they put a lot on them to come fill holes and make tackles. They'll send some pressure. But when you look at maybe where they're weak, then I dialed up the stats on Armstrong and Pickett from Virginia and Pitt, and they both went for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and we got our guy with the right arm. The hot set of dice, as Josie likes to say, Mr. Van Dyke. So if they can keep pushing we clearly see Rhett Lashley has not holding anything back.
Nothing.
He's being ultra super aggressive. He's putting the ball in his quarterback's hands and letting him throw the ball down the field. And if that's where they feel the advantage is, then there's no question in my mind that's what they're going to let him do.
Yeah, their two linebackers are number 1 and 2 in the ACC in tackling. Miami's defense, Gibbs and Sims, in particular, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's an electric running back. Miami's got to find a way to continue their improved tackling.
I think that's important, and just it's contagious now. I think that you saw great tackles in the open field against Pitt, the best day tackling Miami has had this season, and I expect it to be even better next week and the following week. They are working on it diligently every single day at practice. They're going live on it, and it's starting to pay off. The drills are paying off, the confidence is building up, and even the younger guys are realizing this is how you tackle in college and have success with it.
You guys remember the Cam Kitchens when he kind of pile drove? But that was a great form tackle, and that's what you want out of you want that. I remember talking to Manny a few years ago with Jaquan Johnson. Like, he was the safety valve. He cleaned up. He always said he would clean up the mistakes, and he'd make sure there were no big plays would bust out of that. And so you have to have those two guys on the back end that can make tackles. We've talked about James Williams' ability the way he just plays a violent game, and Cam Kitchens is so smart. But again, Don alluded to it earlier. These are still younger players who are seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time. But I think Jeff Sims is a good matchup. He'll give the ball away, although he's also provided a spark for them. But against Virginia didn't tackle well on the back end and gave up some big plays. So if Miami can get these guys on the ground, it should be a good day for the Hurricane defense.
This is a really, really big game for the University of Miami. We'll just do this quickly for a couple of reasons. One, they've won 2 in a row. They've done that a couple times the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden they lose their focus and can't sustain it. So one, they got to prove they can sustain it. 2, it's probably premature because Miami hasn't earned this yet about being in the Coastal race. But if they beat Georgia Tech, they put a lot of pressure on Virginia and Pittsburgh. Both those teams will be looking over their shoulder.
I hope Miami keeps the attitude they had the last couple weeks. There's no reason for them to get overconfident. We're at 500. That's the truth. We're at 500. We've won 4, we've lost 4. You've got 4 games in front of you that can change this season and can ultimately, with a little help, as you always give us the great info on, Joe, we need a little help to get to where we want to go. But you're 500 today. So now you've got to win the next one and take care of it each week at a time. And we can look ahead now. You get through this one, we got a big one coming up against the Knowles in a couple weeks. But I say take care of business today and forget about what could be and what should be and what might be.
So you said I'm a podcaster. Coach Larinago, you had him on, and he has visions for how he runs his team. But one of the things he said from one of the books you read is you sort of start with the end in sight, right? Where do you want to be, and then kind of work your way backwards. And think what a great story the end can be, whether you win the Coastal or not. To bounce back from 2 and 4, if you can rip off 6 in a row, and obviously that starts with winning 1 at a time. But if you can have a taste of what the end will look like and feel like, because now that you've been in a winning locker room 2 weeks in a row,
it's fun.
I can tell you, it is way better than the alternative. So keep stacking those chips and think about the stories that'll be written and what people will be saying if this whole thing gets turned around. Now, in order to do that, you have to continue to work hard. You have to understand where you have to get better. You have to understand where things have to get corrected. But keep applying the same mindset, the same determination, the same hunger, right? And then you will get to where to be. If you win the Coastal, great. But if you finish the way we all want this team to finish, that's a phenomenal deal.
Okay, we'll come back with the keys to the game. Miami and Georgia Tech, 12:30 kickoff. Keys to the game are coming up next.
With UHealth Virtual Clinics, you can see our experts in every specialty wherever you are.
University of Miami health system providers are available here for all your healthcare needs.
All you need is a phone or tablet to schedule a virtual visit with us.
See a UHealth provider virtually today or at a time that's convenient for you.
Visit umiamihealth.org/virtual clinics or call 305-243-4000.
Hey, it's the Good Greek Spiro, and we all know that the most important part of winning a championship is getting there. And when the Miami Hurricanes need to get their equipment to each game, they call Good Greek Moving and Storage. The Miami Hurricanes trust the Good Greek, and so should you. So move like a champ and go to goodgreek.com. Good Greek Moving and Storage, the official movers of the Miami Hurricanes.
Good Greek moving and storage. Your superhero movers.
The keys of the game are brought to you by AutoNation. No matter how long you've had your car or why you're letting it go, AutoNation will buy it. And you don't have to buy one from us. We'll give you a top dollar offer and check on the spot. You can deposit right away. Appraise your car today at AutoNation.com. All right, welcome back to the show. Miami and Georgia Tech on Saturday. Joe Zagacki, Don Bailey Jr., Josh Darrow. 12:30 kickoff. All right, let's take a look at the keys to the game for the University of Miami. You got to establish the run. Canes have run the ball pretty well against Georgia Tech. Convert on third downs, and we've seen great effort here the last couple of weeks. Miami has to continue with that relentless effort for 60 minutes. Let's go with establish the run. Georgia Tech's giving up 176 yards a game on the ground.
It helps Tyler Van Dyke so much when Miami can run the football, and almost 300 yards last week against Pitt in called runs. Now that doesn't mean that the running game got 300 yards, but it was called runs, so your RPOs and your bubbles and all those things figure into the equation. I think you saw a great game plan last week. I think you'll see a lot of things that are similar this week. But I'm also, when you talk about the run, it also helps Miami in time of possession. 2 weeks in a row, Miami has won that offensively, and it's also led to wins in as far as the games go.
Well, here's why I like establishing the run. Puts the ball in the Rooster's hands more, right? Give him the ball as many times as you can, because you know something's going to come. There's going to be a big play. But to Don's point, it helps Tyler Van Dyke. The RPO bubble game was huge against Pitt, and of course Pitt kind of bites on all that stuff. But putting the ball in the Roosters' hands and taking some pressure off of Tyler Van Dyke, it opens up the field for the passing game.
Canes have made some huge plays on third down the last couple of games. Big third down plays for touchdowns, third down plays at the end of games to seal the win. Georgia Tech has struggled getting off the field. Teams are converting 45% of the time. Miami has to take advantage of that.
To me, how I was raised in the game, third down is a mindset. That's the challenge down. Whether it's 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 7+, doesn't matter. You've got to be determined that if you start at the offensive line, most of the time you're going to see a blitz, you're going to see stunts, you're going to see movement. You got to pick that up. And your quarterback has to have the confidence in his arm, which we see that he does. And then, of course, wherever the ball goes, if it's a throw, you got to catch the darn football. But it's a state of mind. In Miami, the last few weeks, looks like they are growing very confident in third and whatever, because it doesn't seem to matter, Josh.
No, it doesn't seem to matter. And, of course, that also helps your defense, right? So if you convert on third down, whether you can score off of that or just have another possession or another series of downs, you can flip the field, get Lou Headley on the field. So plus 3 and out, that's not a winning formula. So it's been good what Miami's been able to do. Rhett Lashley seems to kind of have found his little magic inside of his playbook. Things are working well for the offense, and it certainly sets up, when you can, at the very least, if you can pin Georgia Tech back and make them work the field, that's favorable.
Okay, our last key is relentless effort. And earlier in the show with Coach Diaz, Don, you mentioned Zach McLeod. There was a play against Pittsburgh where he got a sack late in the game against Kenny Pickett. And it was a relentless effort because the offensive lineman should have been arrested for strangulation. And Zach just ran right through it, just kept on going, which is a microcosm of what we're seeing from the team. And guys are making plays through relentless effort. 12:30 game, Hard Rock Stadium. Here comes sleepy old Georgia Tech. Miami's got to have a great effort.
So I don't know that you can be successful in anything if you don't have relentless effort. If it's business, if it's being a husband, a father, it doesn't matter. But certainly on the football field, you have to have that. And part of it is when you can have relentless effort in the third and the fourth quarter or the last 4 minutes of the game, especially then. David Freely's done a great job in conditioning. So Miami can get to that fourth quarter and pour on the relentless effort, but you have to have it. And the team usually, no matter where it is and what sport it is, that gives you the closest to 60 minutes of that type of effort usually wins.
And again, we talked about this in the last segment about what's at stake for the University of Miami, what can be the story they can write. Well, then that should show itself in how they play on Saturday. If all of that is there in front of them and they want it as bad as they want it, then they should come out and play with the kind of effort that warrants what they want the end result to be. We've seen it the last few weeks. Look, no one can question this team's heart, how they fought, how they played, their belief in their staff, their coach. I mean, this team has given this staff and the fans and the program everything they have, and there's no reason why it shouldn't continue today.
Okay, looking for 3 in a row. Miami and Georgia Tech at Hard Rock Stadium, 12:30 kickoff for Josh Darrow, Don Bailey Jr., head coach Manny Diaz, Joe Ziacki. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next week on the Manny Diaz Show.